Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about the new idea for possibly more bowl games coming down the road in the college football postseason. Not the biggest fan of that, to be totally honest, at least in the short term, but I think it could work in the long term, but we'll get to that as it kind of unfolds. But let's jump into the transfer portal window. There has been a ton of stuff happening over the last couple of weeks in this spring portal, but it is officially closed. We finally have no more names going into there, but we still have some big names in there, and we had some big time commitments over the weekend. So I want to break down first the commitments, and then we'll get to kind of the intel on all the guys that are left on the board. But let's start with Timmy McClain, one of the quarterbacks from UCF that found his way out after KJ Jefferson was brought in from Arkansas. Definitely a good decision for him. He has landed at Arkansas State, so definitely a little bit of a step down for him, but a very electric kid. Made one of the coolest plays a year ago for UCF against Baylor on a 4th and 5. If you want to look that up, I'm sure it will not be hard to find at this point on Twitter and all of those different social pages. So this kid can make some plays. He's very, very fun to watch. Very excited to see what he can do at that level. And I think he could do some really insane things, to be totally honest with you. We had Gavin Freeman commit to Oklahoma State. This one is very surprising to me. This was not one that I expected. Apparently, there was some talk about an Oklahoma guy going to Oklahoma State. I did not know it was going to be this one. He is an Oklahoma kid, so it makes a little bit of sense, but he definitely will be a big-time player for the Pokes, whether it's a receiver or definitely as a returner will be a huge player for them, but playing against Oklahoma is going to be a very, very interesting thing for this kid. So definitely a very interesting commitment. Will be a really fun thing to watch when they finally meet up. Keon Graves, a wide receiver from Ohio State, is making his way to Cal, and I think this is a fantastic pickup for Cal. A very, very talented kid that was just stuck in probably one of the best, if not the best, wide or position room in the entire country. So makes sense that he made his way over there. Will be a huge help to whoever wins that battle for quarterback one between Fernando Mendoza and Chandler Rogers, who's the transfer from North Texas. Both very talented guys, but when you grab a 4-star coming out of high school and Keon Graves to kind of help you out, I think it can only be a good thing. So a huge pickup for Cal. I think it helps them a ton just to kind of make them a little bit more dangerous, where, to be honest, when you look at them, they're already pretty dangerous in that ACC as it is. Sean Dolock is a guy that we talked about last week. He was coming from Utah State. Well, he's going back to the place he came from. He was at Buffalo a year ago, got injured at some point during the year, and kind of just wasn't able to get back on the field. Definitely was sorely missed by that defense. Made his way to Utah State and made his way right back to Buffalo. So a huge pickup for Pete Limbo, who just took over there for Maurice Lindquist after he went to Bama to be the defensive back coach. So if this kid is healthy, he can absolutely play on pretty much any team in the country, to be totally honest with you. He's an absolute tackle machine, a great middle linebacker, and plays the game with a ton of passion. So really, really like that kid. Very glad he found his way back to kind of home base for him. He's from Buffalo, so definitely will be a very, very fun thing for them. And you picked up a great player if you're Buffalo, that's for sure. Isaiah Hamilton has committed to Ole Miss, something we expected for quite some time. Right when we talked on Friday, that was really just a matter of time until he committed. It is now official. The portal class for Ole Miss is just insane. It's going to be super important to their success. There's so many guys across this portal class that essentially need to hit if they want to do what they're capable of doing this year. So it'll be really interesting to watch. I think this is a guy that could absolutely start for them right away across from Trey Amos. So it'll be fun to watch. I think this portal class will have a ton to do with what you see from Ole Miss this year. And then another team that has a ton to do with what's going to happen this year is Oregon, and they brought in Derek Harmon, which is a massive pickup. Someone that we were looking at USC and Colorado for the most part, and then he just commits to Oregon pretty much out of nowhere. So Dan Lanning is doing absolute work. They brought in Jamari Caldwell already at the defensive tackle position, so bringing in Derek Harmon as well as just insane, to be totally honest with you. Also, his teammate from Michigan State that also left with him, Simeon Barrow Jr., has committed to Miami, a huge pickup for Miami. They desperately needed some help across the interior of that defensive line to help out Ruben Bain and being the game breaker that he absolutely can be. I think week one against Florida is not only huge for the upcoming year, obviously, but for this program overall. I think they have to be ready to go and be in a position where you're going to very much need, really, to win that game if you want to get that ball rolling and get everyone very confident in this team. But let's go to the back end here and talk about D'Angelo Pons, a very, very talented player out of JMU. He's heading to Indiana, and that has been a thing that has happened over and over and over again this offseason. Kurt Cignetti, the head coach of JMU a year ago, found his way to Indiana, so a lot of guys follow him. I believe it's around 10 guys at this point that have made their way from JMU to Indiana, so it'll be really interesting to see how this team kind of evolves. I think a lot of those guys will play big roles in this team this upcoming year, so it'll be interesting to see how this kind of pseudo JMU team, I guess, works in the Big Ten. But another corner that came off the board, Javion Cole, has committed to Texas, a huge pickup for Texas where you lost Terrence Brooks, you lost Austin Jordan. Now it hurts a little bit less, that's for sure. You had 7 picks for him over the last 2 years at San Jose State, so elite ball skills, can do a ton of really, really good things. Could start right away, will be battling Gavin Holmes for that other starting spot, likely across from Manny Muhammad, so a very talented kid, someone that I tend to expect to be the starter, whether it's week 1 or week 3, I don't know, but I think he will be the starter for probably the majority of next year for Texas, just because you need elite ball skills out there. I guess he will play field corner, although I'm very, very skeptical of that. We'll see what happens there. There's tons of dominoes to fall there, but a huge pickup for Texas. And then finally, Peyton Woodyard, one of the biggest names off the board. Oregon had a great weekend. There's no doubt about that. They brought in Derek Harmon. They brought in Peyton Woodyard. This one was expected pretty much right when he hit the portal from Bama, so I think no one really has benefited from the portal overall more than Oregon. Bringing in all the guys they brought in was just insane, but we'll break down some winners and losers from the portal tomorrow, so definitely stay tuned for that. But just to give you an idea of where we sit now and kind of all the players that are still on the board, we have an update for you here. So General Booty, one of the best names in college football by a comfortable margin, is leaving Oklahoma. He had gotten mostly Group of 5 offers, but it sounds like Iowa has been in contact. Pete Nakos dropped that during this weekend, and I think that'll be a very interesting thing to watch. This is a kid that absolutely lit the world on fire at JUCO, and when you're Iowa, you need a little bit of help in that quarterback room from a depth perspective, especially with Declan Hill. I can't remember his name. Deacon Hill, there you go. Deacon Hill walking out the door. I think adding someone like General Booty could be a great addition to that team. Elijah Badger is still kind of going through a lot of his visits and things of that nature. He has heard from a ton of teams, but it seems like he's been to Washington. He's expected to go to Florida and Arizona sometime soon. Might have been at one of those places this past weekend, to be totally honest with you. So this is a huge pickup, maybe one of the biggest players left in the board. Tyler Barron, another one, the edge rusher from Tennessee, who we'll get to here in a minute, but very, very interesting to watch. Then you have Jalen Berger, who's a very talented running back from Michigan State. I believe he started his career at Indiana. I could be wrong about that. I don't remember. He's a two-time transfer, that's for sure. Wisconsin, that's what it was. He's been in contact with a ton of teams. You have Georgia Tech, Minnesota, Duke, UCLA, Arizona, Boston College. Plenty of teams that need some running back help that he can absolutely help them out. It'll be really interesting to see where this kid ends up. Not exactly sure who has the lean right now. I know Arizona would be a great place for him with a lot of their running backs finding their way to Washington over the past little bit. So definitely will be interesting to watch that one unfold. Cormani McLean has been very, very quiet on the recruiting front. I have really no idea what is going on there. I thought this was a very talented kid. Obviously, some teams have some worries about some of the things that popped up during his Colorado career, not being quite as committed as Dion would have liked, and I'm sure a lot of other coaches around the country would have liked to see from him. I think the one consistent team that I've seen has been South Florida. although I haven't seen them for quite a bit. So I really don't know what's going to happen with him. I hope that he finds a good place to play and, reaches the heights that he's definitely capable of. But right now, it does not necessarily look great for Kermani McLean out there on the recruiting trail. Another DB out there is King Mack. He was one of the 3 Penn State players that found their way into the portal the very last minute, but this was the biggest hit for sure for Penn State. You lose a guy that was a top 90 recruit from a year ago, very, very talented kid. He took a visit to Bama this weekend, and they will definitely want to lock him in. He would be a huge player for them. Maybe not this year, but definitely down the road for Alabama. Would have helped Penn State down the road for sure. So not a great loss for Penn State. Would be a great pickup for Alabama, but we'll definitely keep an eye on that. Another one that Alabama is kind of picking up traction on is Deshaun Jones. Pete Nakos and Steve Wiltfong have both put in predictions for him to commit to Bama. This is something that I honestly forgot to add him to the cornerback list over here, but he would be off very quickly, so maybe it's better that I didn't add him, to be totally honest with you. Then we have some frontline guys. You have Chief Borders, a very, very talented kid from Nebraska. He is taking a visit to UCLA. He definitely broke out during this spring at Nebraska. They were expecting him to be a big-time player for them before he left, so UCLA would absolutely love to have him. And then you have Tyler Barron, a very, very talented guy. It sounds like he's down to Miami and Ole Miss again. He has had a wild portal window. He was at Tennessee, committed to Ole Miss, decommitted to Ole Miss, went to Louisville, and then has found his way back into the portal. And I would lean towards Miami, to be totally honest in this one. I'm not exactly sure, but if they were able to add him to Ruben Bain, that edge rushing would just be out of this world. So it'll be really interesting to watch. The portal is starting to kind of wind down, obviously. We have tons of commitments rolling in, not so many guys with tons of new information, to be totally honest with you. Elijah Herring, it feels like Virginia Tech is still kind of the leader there. It'll be really interesting to watch all of this unfold, but maybe one more of these segments to come, but most likely a wrap-up if anything else. Probably will just kind of sprinkle some new information into some other segments down the road, but a very, very interesting portal cycle. Something that I don't think a lot of us expected for the most part. I think we expected it to be a little bit crazier. I definitely did. I can say that. So apologies if I made anyone very nervous about their teams going into this one that didn't end up coming to fruition. But it was a crazy cycle, especially when you come to spring cycles. It was definitely the most active, definitely the most all over the place, but it has finally come to an end. We can finally breathe a little bit, and hopefully your team wasn't hurt too bad. But we're going to take our final break here, and when we come back, we have a Good Vibes Monday for you, and we're going to break down the College Football 25 kind of update on everything that's going on. Chris Fowler gave us some great updates. I have my official predictions for the cover athletes, everything that you could possibly need in this next segment. So stick with us, and we will be right back with that.